All right, so welcome to SA Boxing Talk. I'm here with Phumlani and Njilo and of course Tumelo Ramaphosa. Gentlemen, we've come together for this important thing for boxing. Durban, it's going to be huge for the sport of boxing. I know you wanted to tackle a topic, but can we first, can we get to what's happening? What are you guys doing?
All right. Oh no, thanks Hayden. Thank you so much for having us on SA Boxing Talk. And I always say this is the best platform for the boxing community, for us to be able to voice ourselves. And yeah, it's happening in Durban at the Durban ICC. It's called the Mandela Boxing Cup. IBA, which is the International Boxing Association, is bringing to the country in partnership with Sanabo and the Nelson Mandela Foundation. And also, funny enough, the African Boxing Confederation is actually involved as well. So it's actually quite a big event, and it's happening over at the Durban ICC, as I said, from the 15th to the 21st. And I think we're getting over about 200 boxers from around the continent, from about 48 countries.
Over 400.
Yeah, over 400. Yeah, over 400 boxers. Yeah, descending into KZN, and then obviously competing in this tournament, which is a big thing for boxing and South Africa as a whole.
And I've got to ask Tumelo, what is your involvement in this? I know that he's a boxer. You are a promoter, I'm assuming. Let's get into the business behind it. I mean, like, how have you got involved in the sport of boxing?
So myself, I mean, look, I'm a big mixed martial arts enthusiast, combat sports. I think this is more of a dream come true. I mean, I've been a very big UFC fan, Ultimate Fighter Championship fan, and I've been kind of following the business journey of, like, say, Dana White, the president of Dana White. Seeing him as a fight promoter, promoting Chuck Liddell's fights back in the day, and seeing where he's taken the business today. And for me, it's almost been like the same thing, where now we're promoting our own fights, but now it's also following their kind of model of a pay-per-view style event, right? And now it's making it more inclusive. We also now, as even with Dana White, UFC's also, its success is attributed to inclusion as well, from a global perspective, all different demographics as well as women. And they've created an incredible stage. So that's what we've also done here, is that we've seen that celebrity boxing is what people are responding to. I mean, I myself, as a mixed martial arts practitioner, when I was 7, I did karate. We wore a gi, And now when you look at it later, gis have kind of evolved out of the gyms. Now we do jiu-jitsu without a gi, no submission, we do no gi submission grappling. And that's evolved, and when you look at it, that's what people want to do. So you have to respond and give people what they want. And when you look at it in the bigger picture, things like celebrity boxing in the totality are more inclusive, because it actually takes people who are not even boxing fans to make them boxing fans, because they can be related. Because they're now watching people like Njilo that are relatable. But it's also very important that we have people like Njilo who actually have a real boxing career, and we're actually going to protect boxing. And this is one of the things where where we partnered with Aesthetics Meet, in terms of our sports endeavors and our global expansion. We partnered with International Boxing Association, and the president and I became very close, and we had a strategy for Africa, to uplift the boxing in Africa. And with this tournament now, which is a Olympic qualifier, we thought, look, this would be wonderful, but by bringing a celebrity boxing feature on top of it, with relatable fighters, but also influencers, as Njilo will be fighting Puluso. I mean, he comes from his battle with Big Zulu, and his 8-fight win streak. So we have a person with an amateur, inclination, but then you also have Puluso, who's celebrity becoming into fight. So you have that whole mix of boxing and pure boxing, as Njilo protected, and you have the celebrity aspect to make something more inclusive for everybody. And then we have the female feature, as a co-main event. Which is now being done properly, and this is, we've had an incredible, response from that, and it was quicker to set up the female fight than the male fight. Yeah.
I wanted to ask on that as well. Obviously, you're building sort of the next generation of fighters when you're involving young amateur boxers, but are you allowed to pick a favorite for the main events? I know you're sitting next to him right now. Are you allowed to visibly back him? I know Dana White, as you mentioned before, has in the past done that, but are you allowed to do that?
Absolutely not. And as I said, I bet on both sides, and I'll see where my money goes in the spread. Look, at the end of the day, even for me, I mean, I can't be biased. I have to be impartial. I have to kind of, maintain a diplomatic, image. And at the end of the day, it's my vision to keep people fighting. I can't have my favorite people against my not favorite people. right? For me, it's just doing this. It's amazing. You know, I enjoy doing this. I mean, I remember in grade 9, when I was in high school, and we used to go on like a field at school, and we used to have, that was when the movie Fight Club came out, and we used to actually get gloves and go on a field and fight it out. We got in trouble for that, but now it's like we're not going to get in trouble for this. It's a sanction.
I love stories like that as well, because obviously it brings you back, and I think everyone in school did that, so obviously they kept quiet about it. So did it happen during breaks or after school?
I was the guy running the Fight Club. That's the difference. I got to detention and almost got suspended.
So you were born for this, pretty much.
I enjoy fighting, but, you know, of course, to keep fit and healthy. But I think for me, it's more of a learning thing. I mean, even working with Njilo, it's been a learning experience of what they've done, you know, from the great success. And even with us, we reached out. We're like, look, this is what we're doing. Work International Boxing Association, Euroboxer. You know, we were close with Njilo, and we said, look, brother, let's work together on doing this. And I mean, obviously, through Njilo's knowledge and contacts, and you know, bringing on Sanabo, bringing on, you know, yourselves as well. That's where, let's say, from our side, even from a mixed martial arts side, I train with current bantamweight champ Nicholas Wender, but I mean, this is a whole different world. This is a bigger world now, and you know, we start from the bottom. So it's been you know, I think you know, if in terms of Njilo, I'll support him until he gets into the ring, but that's not my fight. That's his. You know, as a fighter, you know, building in the promotion, you know, as one of our pioneers, obviously we'll support him. And also, let's say with the drive, with the Nelson Mandela drive we're doing for communities, going around the schools, you know, that's where, I mean, even in Njilo's hometown, that was, you know, something that, you know, we both took on as, you know, responsibility of brothers, you know, to really invest in boxing in KZN, to uplift it. So it's been, you know, it's been wonderful being with a homeboy, being guided in this whole process. Yeah.
All right, and you're the man that will have to step into the ring, potentially going to get your head knocked off, potentially going to knock your opponent's head off. What's the feeling like going up against a new opponent? Because you're riding a huge momentum coming off the Big Zulu result that sort of puts you on this map, and that's why we're probably here today. How's your head going into this fight?
Yeah, to be honest with you, Hayden, the Big Zulu fight, I was more nervous. The guy is 2 weight divisions heavier than me, you know. I was very nervous, to be honest with you. I knew I looked chilled, but I was nervous. This one I'm more chilled. The guy is within my weight division. You know, I've seen a couple of videos. He does have a bit of a fighting background, but I think I'm more comfortable going into this one. As well, the lights and the crowd, you know, I'm used to it now. You know, with the Big Zulu fight, we almost packed out the Olive Convention Center, huge crowds, you know, chanting with a big star like Big Zulu as well, with such a big following. I think at that time the nerves were there, but I think now I'm more chilled. I know what's going to happen, and everything's just unfolding perfectly.
All right.
But also it's the second fight at home, so like the first one was like a lot of pressure. Now it's at least a little bit more chilled.
More chilled.
Yeah. Obviously, you going in as the favorite this time as opposed to last time. I mean, a lot of people, the media speculated, you know, Big Zulu was going to knock you out and all of those things. This time, you probably in his position, you're in that position where you can't let your people down. Yeah,
no, definitely. And you know, the worst part, I'm not saying the worst part, but I also put my belt on the line as well, the one that I won through Big Zulu. So yeah, I think the pressure is there, but honestly speaking, I'm quite chilled. I'm quite chilled. I'm well prepared. I know what I'm going to do, and I know I promised people to knock out Big Zulu, but definitely this time I'm knocking this guy out, definitely.
And you're becoming sort of a pioneer for white-collar boxing in South Africa as well, taking it to the next level, as we mentioned, with celebrity boxing. It's important to bring the people out to support it. What's your feelings on white-collar boxing?
I think we all know that the big hoo-ha that has been happening in the boxing fraternity, you know, regarding white-collar boxing. You know, you've got guys like Stephen Castle who've been very vocal in terms of their stance with white-collar boxing, and obviously they don't want white-collar boxing to carry on in the country. But I think white-collar boxing has done so much. Like, for example, I started through white-collar boxing. If you look what the guys are doing in KZN, Knuckle Game, Trevor and Candice, if you look at Relentless, Sean, if you look at 360 Boxing, Roland as well, those guys are pulling out big crowds. Like the last events and sponsorship as well, and the last white-collar events that Knuckle Game had, Trevor and them, there were over 2,000 people. Where are you going to get that in a professional fight? These guys can't even put, let's say, 500 people together. It's very difficult to bring those kind of crowds, but white-collar boxing is doing it. And as Tumelo was saying, it's bringing such a different, you know, demographic in terms of the crowd coming into the sports, you know, being introduced to the sports. And we all know, sponsors want numbers. If you don't have bums on seats, no one wants to sponsor these kinds of events. So white collar boxing is really drawing the crowds to come back, introducing them into boxing. Then once the guys know about boxing, then obviously they can start, getting more interested in the sport and start watching the professional fights. We've got so many champs in the country. But if you ask, we can walk right now around here and ask if anybody knows that Sinevati. They don't know. But the guy's carrying, I think, an IBO a belt, which Mayweather had at one stage. Crazy, but people don't know. But you get people like me and Tumelo, we're coming into the spaces. We're saying, listen, guys, we want to include everyone into the sport. We want to make this happen. And look, we've got big brands behind us. Just the other day, we've got one of the biggest betting companies calling us and wanting to be part of this event. We've got Pharaoh, one of the largest exotic automobile retailers in the country, and we're sitting here in his showroom. Do you think any professional, a boxing promoter can do this? Not a chance.
White collar,
not a chance. But yeah, white collar, exhibition fights, we are doing it. And all I'm saying now, anybody who thinks white collar should be stopped must just go fly a kite.
Look, I mean, to add to that, it's like what I was trying to say earlier. Like, I mean, I think one of the things that inspired me with what just to mention two things, what we said. I mean, look at, let's say, the fight with Big Zulu, right? You have a guy, much more physically developed in all aspects, and you have Njilo. There's a big size difference. But remember, with boxing, it's a strategy game, right? It's very tactical. It's a science. It's an artwork. So even with that, it's not about the size of the dog, but the size of the fight in the dog, And, even on that night, Njilo displayed that, right? And, going forward, it just shows you how hungry people are for, to get a chance to fight, to get a chance to do white-collar boxing. I mean, unfortunately, had this arena not been available, Njilo would have to have been going up against professional, amateur guys who are trying to go professional. But, being a businessman, a family man, and also being a boxer, the guys like those guys are not here. They're in the gym sweating and training. But, because of platforms like this, it enables, a lot more inclusivity. And that's where we're trying to go for. So even coming back to that point I was making where you look at how the gi in martial arts has phased out and now everybody's in no gi. But look at how much bigger martial arts has become, because now they're actually giving people what they want. And that's what we want to do, give people what they want. And even with this, I mean, we want this to be the biggest white-collar boxing, biggest celebrity fight, of South Africa. We've got traction. I mean, now working with Njilo, we're just, propelled, as a catalyst going forward, working with IBA. So, coming back to that whole, negative kind of stance, we need to work together, guys. Why are we not working together? Because even as Njilo was saying, you go to these local boxing association fights, promoter fights, there's no money. But then you go to white-collar boxing matches where there's money, where there's business people who are business people, work 8-12 hours a day and then go and train. But they still want to box. But look how much money they put into it. So who's really the fan and who's really the fanatic? And who really owns the sport? Because if it comes to a value point of view, then it means professional fighters don't have a place. And it's sad because when you look at Russia, it's very hard for a lot of athletes to get into, mainstream, the mainstream professional world and to get opportunities. And when you look at associations like IBA, they foster that. They create opportunities. I mean, even with me, when I went to Russia, I trained with Alexander Emelianenko, Fedor Emelianenko's younger brother, the MMA, the legends. So what I'm trying to say is that we all have to work together to try and, fill these gaps. But coming back to that conversation, even with the IBA, they were also a little bit sensitive about the whole thing of, the whole white-collar boxing, because that's, it's grown, it's kind of detached what boxing really is, because you look at what Jake Paul and everybody's doing. But look at Mike Tyson himself. He stepped up to Jake Paul. He's there to, he's the Njilo, Mike Tyson's the Njilo in that fight, defending boxing.
Yeah, not even Mike Tyson. Look what happened to me. One fight with Big Zulu, I win the fight, right? It's a celebrity exhibition fight. And within a couple of months, I get a phone call from the president's son wanting me to fight in one of the biggest events in the country. Now,
because we had even a bigger association because of what we did. And we showed them, look, guys, we've done this before, because also their pushback was like, wait, no, look, here's our partner, we've done this before. And it was the biggest fight. So you look at the growth. I mean, it started with Casper, Knack Music. Look where it is. I mean, the fight they had, the one before Casper had, the Knack Music one. Look where it is now. I mean, our next target is, going forward to create more events. Our next target is Durban, July, have a big event. And then Saudi,
You mentioned Saudi right there. That's going to be outside, obviously, of South Africa. What do you plan for there?
So look, we operate in Saudi aesthetics meat. We export meat, our high protein snack. And that's essentially the whole journey is why we got into fight combat sports and everything, was to kind of grow our brand. And when you look at what's happening in Saudi, look what it's, say with Dubai. I work in Dubai and I'm a resident. You look at what's happening in Dubai. Dubai is actually the center of not even just mixed martial art, but specifically jiu-jitsu, because that's where the ADCC, the Abu Dhabi Combat Club, is. I mean, I was afforded the chance when I was training to train with number 4 in the world. Black belts. She was like she's 24, one of the youngest black belts. A woman. She submitted me 7 times. But when you look at, even with her, she's from Brazil, look at the opportunities that you get there. And, that's where the fight world is going, and, that's where the money is. So even with us, a lot of our fighters, even my coaches as well, they all go and train and fight. And remember at the time during COVID, Abu Dhabi was the only place in the world that had Fight Club where there were still fights, where they test COVID and they could still compete. So that's where the target is, because, it's about ascension. Where do we want to go next? We'd want to do South Africa versus Nigeria influencer fights, to kind of entertain this whole Mapiano debacle that's going on and to settle it, yeah. So that's where as we're trying to say, we're making it more inclusive. You've got to bring in professional and social. You've got to mix, and, that's how it's got to be. It's got to be intertwined.
Do you see South Africa being the hub, though, of that particular activity? I know that you did mention there a couple of different things, but does South Africa become a home ground for some of these events?
It already is. I mean, look at now, we've got Tricus du Plessis. We've got middleweight champion of the world. The best fighter in the world right now is a South African. Now then the talks are of to do an UFC in South Africa. We're not going to wait for that. We're going to do our next event before that. So we're going to carry on, to your question, celebrity boxing is bigger than boxing in South Africa now, unfortunately. If you don't want to admit it, it is, right? And it's like what porn was in the internet. Porn was bigger than what the internet was, because that's what people wanted, right? So even with this now, we've got to make we've got to make the big promotions, because that's what people are hungry for. They want the exclusivity. So the inclusivity. Look at what happened with Francis Ngannou against Tyson Fury. Yeah. That was one of the biggest fights, right? And that was, look, I mean, there's so many, there's so many things you can say. I mean, Ngannou getting into a fight. But even with me, I won't fight. And let me say it on camera, I'll only do a mixed martial arts fight. I won't be like Ngannou go and fight a top boxer. But I'd love to see Tyson go and do a mixed martial arts fight, and I'd love to see Ngannou go for it and have equal playing fields, So when you do things like that, you change the narrative. And that's what you need to do, because now, what does it mean? All these mixed martial arts fans, now they come to boxing. All these boxing fans, now they come to mixed martial arts. And there's more fans, more viewership.
Yeah, I like that as well. And obviously, you're now fully part of the project as well, being the main events of the evening. For you, I mean, you heard what Tumelo said. What is your opinion on the exact same thing? I mean, the growth from a personal point of view in the boxing ring. Of course, you have a lot of other things that you do outside of the ring, but inside of the ring, what's your responsibility there?
I think if you mean like the fighting. Yeah, I think inside of the ring, one is I'm known for boxing, right? So as Tumelo said, I've got a fight record. So one, for me, the main thing is to protect boxing. My opponent is not that much of a boxer, but he can fight as well. So my main thing is in the ring is to protect boxing. Number one, look like a boxer, fight like a boxer, and definitely knock the guy out.
So if your opponent had to, pull a surprise, is that like a bad eye for boxing? How do you see it?
Yeah, man. If you look at the fight, what happened with Ngannou and Tyson Fury, that was a shocker,
But then look at what Anthony Joshua did.
Yeah, then Anthony Joshua came and responded and silenced all the noise. But as Tumelo was saying, man, it's actually, with these things, it's a cross-pollination. Now you get guys from the UFC and guys from UNC, UFC following boxing, guys from boxing actually following the UFC guys. Like I never knew anything about UFC until I knew about UFC, but not that much until Conor McGregor.
Look at that.
Yeah,
the biggest.
And as soon as Mayweather fought Conor, then I started following UFC as well. So I think we're riding a great wave here, and I think people need to catch a wake up and ride the wave with us.
I was speaking to some of the athletes, the boxers, and they were saying South African combat sports, so if we just paint a picture of combat sports, is on the rise. We're producing athletes, and they don't have stellar amateur backgrounds. They have very minimal backgrounds, but they're working in the professional gyms. Our trainers are really good, and they're working towards something. From yourself personally, you work with Tumelo. He's obviously a top head coach, and you do some sparring as well. The development side from you, as opposed to, I'm not sure if you've traveled the world, like Tumelo hasn't trained in other countries, but how do you foresee South African training?
No, I think South African training is right there at the top. I think one thing, obviously, because of the limitation of sponsorship, in terms of the nutritional programs, I think we suffer there. But in terms of training, like, man, it's speaking for itself. Look at the current champions that we have here. And Kevin Lerena, he's boxing as well. He's the Bridgeway interim champion. So those are big belts that we're holding in the country, which shows for real that, no, listen, man, we're doing something right. But if you look at the box rec as well, the placings of South African boxing, we've got so many boxers who are within the top 50 in the world, which is good. The guys are doing well. Coming back to a trainer like Tumelo, so underrated, But if you look at the boxers which are under him, you look at guys like Rocknap, you look at guys like Javante, you look at guys Darren, who's going to be fighting now, proper guys who are within. For example, Javante, I think he's in the top 10 now. Rock as well, I think he's in the top 10 or top 20, and that's like a local black South African trainer who's not using any theatrics and whatever the case might be, just using proper training programs, and he's producing champions. And I'm a champion as well, and he produced me. I beat Big Zulu, a guy who's 2 times my weight division. He told me what to do. We stuck to the plan, and we got the job done. So to answer your question, I think South African trainers #1 are phenomenal. I can name others as well, but today is just about Tumelo.
And from your side, just as a last question for both of you gentlemen, where do fans get their tickets? How do they get to the venue? What is the duration of the event?
So fans can buy their tickets www.starexmeet.com. There's Celebrity Boxing pay-per-view. So they'll be able to log online and they'll be able to buy the tickets for the event. And they'll have a live stream view to watch the event, which will be pay-per-view. It'll be 50 Rand before the night and then 100 Rand on the night. And then, that's about it, yeah.
Do you want to send one last message to your opponent before we leave here?
Hey, yeah, man. One, I'll tell him, Pulo, so you've got balls to take me on. You've got proper kawunos to take me on. But definitely, I'm promising all my followers, all the fight fans, all the boxing fanatics around there, definitely this guy, I'm going to knock him out.
All right. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for sitting down and having a chat. I wish you all the success on this event. Hopefully, I'm also there as well in Durban to come cover this event. It'll be really nice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. See you on the 21st.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. See you in Durban.